Have you ever felt a shift in the air so small it was almost nothing? Change in the sound of a key in the lock? A different rhythm to their breathing as they sleep beside you? For me, it started with the bathroom door. For 10 years, that door was never locked. Suddenly, it was, every single time. The click of the lock echoed in the quiet of our Chicago brownstone, a sound that became a splinter in my mind. I'd stand outside, listening to the water run for just a little too long, my heart pounding a low, dull rhythm of dread. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was crazy. But the truth has a way of seeping out like water under a door, and I knew, deep down, that on the other side of that locked door was the end of my world. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel, tell us where you're from, and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. Sarah and I had what I thought was a perfect life, the kind you see in catalogs. We lived on a quiet, tree-lined street in Lincoln Park. I worked from home, a consultant, which gave me the flexibility to be there, to build our life piece by piece. She was a rising star at a downtown marketing firm, ambitious and beautiful. I was so proud of her. But then came the locked door, the late nights at the office that stretched past midnight, the hushed phone calls she'd take on the balcony, her back to me, her voice a low murmur I couldn't quite catch. When I'd ask who it was, she'd wave a dismissive hand. Just work, honey. You know how Mark is, always a last-minute panic. Mark, her boss, the one she said was a mentor. The first real crack in my denial came on a Tuesday. She'd come home late, smelling of a perfume that wasn't hers, and the faint, cloying scent of expensive whiskey. She slipped into bed, thinking I was asleep. I wasn't. I watched the faint glow of her phone screen illuminate her face as she typed, a small, satisfied smile playing on her lips. The smile wasn't for me. It hadn't been for me in a long, long time. The next morning, after she left for work, I found a receipt in her coat pocket. Not for a late dinner, but for a room at the Thompson Chicago Hotel just off Rush Street. A single night. Check-in, 10:45 p.m. Check-out, 7 a.m. My breath left my body in a ragged gasp. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. It was real. Her cruelty grew with her confidence. She started criticizing me, my work, my clothes, the way I talked. "You've really let yourself go," she said one evening, looking at me with a detached sort of pity. "You're just comfortable. It's not very attractive." Every word was a carefully placed needle, designed to deflate me, to make me feel small. They felt untouchable, her and Mark. I saw him once when I dropped by her office to surprise her for lunch. He was tall, smug, wearing a suit that cost more than my car. He draped an arm over her shoulder right in front of me and gave me a look that said, "She's mine now." "What are you going to do about it?" Sarah just laughed, a high, brittle sound that made my stomach turn. I walked away that day, humiliated, the city noise of downtown Chicago a roaring in my ears. That night was the breaking point. I confronted her. I held up the hotel receipt, my hand shaking. "What is this, Sarah?" Her face, for a moment, flashed with panic, but it was gone in an instant, replaced by a cold, hard mask of indignation. "You went through my pockets? My God, you're pathetic." She didn't deny it. She attacked. She twisted it, made it my fault, my insecurity, my paranoia. The argument was a blur of gaslights and blame. I ended up on the floor of my own office, the door closed, sobbing like a child. The love of my life was a stranger, a monster who was methodically dismantling me. And in that moment, something inside me broke. The grief, the love, the pain, it all burned away. And what was left was cold, hard, and sharp as a shard of glass. The tears stopped, my breathing evened out. I stood up, wiped my face, and a new plan began to form in the ruins of my heart. The war had begun. I became a ghost in my own home. I played the part of the beaten husband, apologetic and withdrawn. She bought it completely. Meanwhile, I started gathering my arsenal. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop who knew the city's secrets. He was worth every penny. He got me everything. Photos of them kissing in a parking garage in the West Loop. Videos of them going into the same hotel, week after week. I opened a new bank account and started quietly moving my assets. I consulted a lawyer, one of the most ruthless divorce attorneys in Chicago. We met in a discreet diner on the south side, and I laid out the evidence. He smiled a thin, predatory grin. "She's not going to know what hit her," he said. I also found out Mark was in the running for a huge promotion, a partnership at the firm, and that he was married, with 2 kids, and a wife who was a prominent figure in a local charity. The trap was almost set. All the pieces were moving into place. Final act was set for Sarah's 35th birthday party. She'd planned a huge, extravagant affair at a rooftop bar overlooking the city, filled with all her important friends and colleagues. Mark would be there, of course. She was glowing, accepting compliments, the queen of her own little kingdom. With me, her sad, pathetic husband, trailing in her wake. That was the role I was meant to play.
Hi.
But the show was about to change. At the peak of the party, as she was about to give a speech, I stepped up to the microphone. "I have a little something I'd like to share, too," I said, my voice calm and steady. I looked at Sarah. Her smile faltered. I looked at Mark. His smug expression tightened. Then, on the huge projector screens behind me, where a slideshow of Sarah's life was supposed to be playing, a new video started. It was the PI's footage. Silent, grainy, undeniable. Them kissing. Them walking into the hotel. His hand on the small of her back. The room fell silent. Every eye was on the screen, then on them. The color drained from Sarah's face. Fuck. Mark looked like he was going to be sick. I let the video play for a full minute before I spoke again. "For the past 6 months," I said, my voice echoing across the stunned rooftop. "My wife, Sarah, and her boss, Mark, have been having an affair." I looked directly at Mark's wife, a woman I had never met, whose face was now a mask of pure shock and horror. "I have filed for divorce on grounds of adultery.
House.
All our joint assets are frozen." "And Mark," I turned to him, "I believe your partners will be receiving a full copy of this evidence tomorrow morning. I hope the partnership was worth it." I placed my wedding ring on the podium, the clink of metal on wood, the only sound in the dead silence. Then I turned and walked away, not looking back. I didn't need to. I could feel the heat of her entire world burning to the ground behind me. The fallout was absolute. Sarah was fired. Mark lost the partnership, and his wife filed for divorce the next day. Sarah was left with nothing. The friends who had surrounded her at the party vanished. In the divorce, she got nothing but her own debt. I sold the brownstone. I moved out of Chicago, away from the ghosts. Sometimes I hear things. That she's working a dead-end job, living in a small apartment in a suburb she used to make fun of. I never saw her again. I don't need to. The victory isn't loud or triumphant. It's quiet. It's the silence in my new apartment, the peace in my own mind. It's the knowledge that I survived, and she is now forever trapped in the ruins of the life she so carelessly destroyed. The last thing I see before I fall asleep is the image of a locked bathroom door and the silence that followed when it was finally opened. The end.